Welcome back to Mission Ready, the VA Disability Podcast. I'm Dr. Marshall Barr, physician, disabled combat veteran, and founder of Xterra Health. And we are rejoined today by my excellent co-host, our Director of Veteran Outreach Services, Josh Ackler.
I'm glad to be back again.
Yeah, our local Marine. All right. Well, today we got a big one. I feel like every episode's a big one.
Everyone's a big one.
Yeah, but this one we're diving into migraines. It's a common one we see a lot of. It's one of the higher yielded VA disabilities, and we wanted to cover that.
I think it's probably the most common granted ones.
I think what we want to do is talk about symptoms, common causes, primary, secondary, and how you can, increase your chances of getting service connected. So, what are migraines? I'll be honest, I have migraines, and sometimes my migraines last longer than most military marriages. So, but what are migraines, right? So there is a difference between headaches and migraines.
Yes.
So migraines are very severe, right? And those are going to be the ones that are classified as, having throbbing, pulsating pain. They're so bad that they actually force you to lay down. That's what they call prostrating. And, they're completely disabling. You can't do anything. You can't function. So you can't work. You can't be engaged in social events. And sometimes common symptoms that come with migraines, I often ask are, do you have, nausea, vomiting, sensitivity to light, sensitivity to sound? Do you get tingling in your fingers? If these are all things you have, then you probably have migraines.
Yes.
Now, just like any other disability you're going to claim, you got to make sure you have the diagnosis.
Always have to have a diagnosis.
How many times have you seen someone come and try to get service connected and they don't have a diagnosis?
It's very common. Very, very common.
Yeah, there is an off chance that you claim it and then you go to CMP exam and they diagnose you there.
Yes.
But if we're talking about trying to, increase your chances of getting service connected, you want to, again, stack all the evidence in your favor, make the odds forever be in your favor.
Always.
Yeah, and come with the diagnosis. How often are you having them? Are they how long do they last? Commonly, what medications are you prescribed? Common medications are going to be that sumatriptan, rizatriptan, any of those triptans. Those are the abortive medications, and then there's treatments that people can take long term, like propranolol, Topamax. But
Topamax is the big. I think that's the VA's biggest ones because that's the one I'm on.
Now, what are some common causes of migraines, especially when it comes into the VA disability process? I mean, what have you seen being in the VSO sector before? Like, what are some of the things that people are claiming secondary to?
PTSD is probably going to be one of our biggest topic that we talk about as a secondary, people secondary conditions claimed off of PTSD. It's going to be the most common thing we're going to probably be talking about. Head traumas, TBIs, concussions, not just, you get blown up and you get a traumatic brain injury, Humvee accidents, motorcycle accidents.
So what you're telling me, though, these are all primary reasons for
These are all primary.
So, and again, tell our viewers the difference between primary and secondary.
Primary is direct link in military service. That means it was documented in military.
It happened in the military. So the Nexus happened in the military. That's the only way you're going to get a primary connection.
Right. But since we're already on the topic here, I want to throw out a joke here to you.
Oh, please do.
I'm going to. So since we have this YouTube channel, do you know how you know when a person is a ranger?
No, please do. Tell.
It's because they're a future motivational speaker and they have a YouTube channel.
All right. I'm laughing on the inside. Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, let's digress and get back on topic, Josh.
Okay.
All right. So tell me now what they need to show a primary service connection for migraines.
So what they need to have for primary service is they need to have an in-service event or illness. But we're going to go lean more in towards the event.
Okay.
So that would be an IED blast. Let's go with the Marines, the mixed martial arts, where you have to use the sticks. And you have to punch.
Pugil sticks. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to whack each other.
Yeah.
People get knocked out all the time. I don't know if they do it anymore, but the round robin.
What's that?
Oh,
That might be a Marine thing.
it might be a Marine thing. It's where you do a school circle and you call each other out and you whip the shit out of each other.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, now that'll do it.
So, but that's it. But it's an event.
A lot of times, the best way to have is in-service documentation.
Absolutely.
You go see the medic, you go to the hospital, see corpsman, and you get it documented. I was having headaches, I was having migraines.
It's not just one event. It's the VA wants to see multiple visits over and over. Chronic
Chronicity.
chronicity.
Yep.
Yes, they want to see multiple times. If you just go in one time and ask and say, "Hey, I have a headache today," or "Today, oh my God, my migraines. I have a migraine. I gotta stay. I need a stay-at-home check." Yeah. Sick. Stay home at sick. It's going to be kind of hard for you to try to claim that.
Yeah.
You're going to need to see multiples of this or show that injury, because that's going to show more. It's going to substantiate that migraine a little bit easier, with that TBI, concussions, sinus infections is a very big one.
But those are secondary ones, right? So
Yes.
with the primary, like obviously the best evidence you can have is in your in-service treatment records.
Correct.
But I will say, and I can say this anecdotally from my own personal experience, it doesn't have to be in the in-service treatment records. For example, I have migraines and mine are from TBI.
Yes.
I've had a couple TBIs. One time I did a static line jump, my head hit the tarmac, I blacked out. And a couple of times I've been in a couple IEDs where my head hit the inside of a striker and I blacked out. And so the key is, though, I had it documented with my post-service treatment records, right? With the VA, talking about it over and over again, the events that happened and how it has progressed and how it's gotten worse. So if you do a good job of documentation post-service, your likelihood of getting it primary service connection goes up significantly.
Significantly, yes.
But, and this is a big but, right? A lot of times guys get denied.
A lot.
Even if they have an event, because they don't have that in-service documentation.
Right.
So a lot of times guys are coming to us denied. Sometimes they're going to need, a Nexus letter, independent medical opinion, how we can tie it back to the service. But more frequently than not, we see a lot of guys come in for secondary reasons. Talk to us, the viewers, about what are some of the more common secondary conditions that are linked to migraines that cause it and aggravate it.
Okay, so secondary conditions I can see that was most common would be chronic sinus infections, rhinitis, tinnitus, bruxism.
What is that?
That bruxism is when you grind your teeth.
Yeah, teeth grinding. Yep. So
That's
TMJ.
TMJ.
Pain your jaw, grind your teeth.
Yep. There would be astigmatisms.
Okay.
So people could get migraines, headaches from that.
Yeah, I mean, some of the more common ones I've seen. Yeah, I think you mentioned it earlier. PTSD.
PTSD is a big, very common.
Because PTSD induced anxiety, stress. Stress is a common trigger for a lot of migraines.
High blood pressure.
High blood pressure. So especially uncontrolled high blood pressure. Last episode we talked about sleep apnea. Well, sleep apnea can cause migraines, especially if it's not well controlled.
Right.
We talked about my personal story, TBIs, head injuries. But you can have things like even chronic neck pain or even chronic pain in general. So if you've got chronic joint pain all over, fibromyalgia, or you've got chronic pain syndrome, these are big triggers for causing migraines. Cervical pain, like a lot of guys that come in, they're service connected for cervicalgia or cervical neck strain. There's things called cervical headaches, cervicogenic headaches, migraines. And so that's another reason that you can have migraines as well. I would say probably the most common one I see when it comes to secondary connection is tinnitus, actually. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so tell us about that. Like, why is tinnitus, ringing in the ears, causing or aggravating migraines?
That beautiful music in your ears.
Yeah.
Is singing, it's humming. It aggravates the migraine. So you may have like a small migraine or a headache, but that ringing and that humming is just driving you nuts. and then causing you anxiety or just driving you nuts, and which is just causing you to have even a, so it's a causal effect.
Yeah, it's both causative and aggravative, right?
Right.
And I think the reason we see it a lot is because tinnitus is the most service-connected disability in the VA amongst veterans.
The gateway.
Yeah, it's just because it happens. I mean, it's just the exposures, right?
Pretty much everybody has
you're shooting
it.
guns, you're around, different sounds, and you don't have adequate hearing protection. Tinnitus is both causative and aggravative, right? So when I'm trying to determine if it's causation, and I'm trying to figure out, is that tinnitus, is it come and go? Is it intermittent? Is it constant? Is it always there? And then how does it affect your sleep? Are you having troubles falling asleep, staying asleep? Because if your tinnitus is leading to insomnia and you're not getting a lot of sleep, well, insomnia is one of the more common triggers for migraines. So, and a lot of guys, they'll come to me and say, yeah, my tinnitus usually will flare up, or I'll be around loud sounds or loud environments, and tinnitus flares up. It gets louder, higher pitch, higher frequency, and then all of a sudden I'm getting migraines. And typical story is, yeah, my tinnitus is worse on my left side, on my left ear, and my migraines always start on my left side.
Right.
And so the story is corroborated by where it's that the tinnitus is at.
Right.
And again, I think we talked about last time is, differentiating between causation and aggravation. And that aggravation means that, that tinnitus is making those migraines progress more than they normally otherwise would have if you didn't have tinnitus.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's tinnitus. So talk about, some of the other common ones, like, so PTSD induced migraines. What's the background behind that? How's that happening?
Someone with PTSD is always on a fight or flight. Mm-hmm. And most of the times they're on the fight. They're always stuck on that fight mode, and they're always on that edge. So when you're always on that edge and you're always anxious and you're always, just always teetering, and you're always on the lookout or however, and you're just always on that edge.
Hypervigilance. Yeah.
Hypervigilance and things like that, and very sensitive to your surroundings, and that alone increases the blood flow. And you're pounding headaches.
Yeah.
And and I mean, I get it all the time.
Hold on, you get them? I thought Marines didn't feel pain. I guess I didn't realize that crayons came with warnings.
I don't take Motrin. No, I mean, I'll admit defeat. Yes, migraines, and they are devastating. They put you down with PTSD, which is what I have, and a TBI. So I got the double whammy. Mm-hmm. So not only do I have the head trauma, so I always have this halo effect of this band. It feels like I have a rubber band wrapped around my head all the time. When I have a heightened sense of, something, a trigger, which builds me up, and I get anxiety, and then now I start then it starts to get prostrating, and then I start getting all these triggers where my hands go numb, my teeth start getting tight, and then I'm increasing this. Then I'm starting to get this tightness in my head, and then the migraines become worse. I had to take some time. Yeah, I had to go down. I had to shut the lights. I have a special blue light in my room.
Yeah,
that I have to lit. It's the only way I could sit. It's probably so common for everybody.
Well, yeah, and I mean, when I'm talking to a veteran who's trying to claim it to PTSD or anxiety, the more common, those are two common mental health ones. The questions I'm always asking are, so, how bad are your PTSD and anxiety symptoms? What are your triggers? Are you overwhelmed? Do you manage stress well? Because a lot of times it's the stress and the anxiety which causes the migraine to happen. And so I'm trying to figure out, how often is that happening? And when you get stressed out, are you clenching your jaw? Are you clenching your fist? Are you causing, your blood pressure to shoot up, and then that's causing your migraines? I also ask, how is it affecting your sleep? Because again, if your PTSD or anxiety is interfering with your ability to get good hours of sleep,
right,
then you're more likely to be primed to have a headache the next day or a migraine. And I always ask that question, hey, on a night where your PTSD is really bad and you're having nightmares and you get, less sleep than you normally do, are you more likely to have a migraine the next day? If the answer is yes, I mean, that's just further proof that yes, this is causative and aggravating towards your migraines.
Right.
Now, another one beyond, PTSD that we see a lot of is sinus and rhinitis as being causes of migraines. With sinus and rhinitis, typically you have sinus pressure-induced headaches.
Right.
And, there's a difference between headaches and migraines, but, when the sinus pressure gets, so bad, it can also trigger and aggravate your migraines. Now, some of the more or less common ones, a lot of people don't think about, is actually medication-induced migraines. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of people that, they're on chronic pain medication or they're on blood pressure medication. They're non-compliant with these medications and they have rebound, headaches or migraines. Another one I think I had mentioned already is the chronic pain, right? So when you have that chronic pain, you're always tense, you're always tight, you're more likely to be triggered for a migraine.
Right.
And, again, I think this kind of goes into the next section is that difference between causation and aggravation, right? So it doesn't always have to be causative, correct?
Correct.
As long as it's aggravating and we can demonstrate that it's aggravating, and it's progressing that migraine past what it normally otherwise would have been if you didn't have that disability,
right?
Then we can get you connected that way.
Mm-hmm.
So these are, I say this because there's so many different avenues and so many different ways to get those migraines service connected beyond just the primary way from the military service.
Right.
There's so many of your current service connected disabilities that can cause and aggravate your migraines.
Right.
So let's get into, the meat and potatoes of migraines when it comes to rating. Because a lot of guys, they're interested in getting service connected, but they're also interested in maximizing their rating, right? Mm-hmm. So can you tell us what the rating schedule is right now for migraines?
So the max you can get for migraines is 50%. And that is more than one prostrating event a month.
And what is prostrating mean? Can you let them know? Because that's a question I get a lot.
Okay. So prostrating means it puts you down where you cannot work, you cannot function. Mm-hmm. You are laying in your bed.
You gotta be horizontal.
Horizontal, laying in bed. You're out. Lights are out. You got the special blue light. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is to make it stop. Or you're sleeping, you have to sleep. That's prostrating.
Yeah, you cannot work. You can't work. You can't function.
You cannot function.
They are disabling.
It is completely disabling.
Yeah.
A headache, you could take medication. You can get out through the day.
Suck it up and move on, right?
And you move on. But you could still get service connected for tension headaches and et cetera like that. But that's a different rating schedule. But migraines, 50% is more than one prostrating event in a month.
Yep.
Then you have 30%, which is where you have one a month. Then you have your 10%, which is where you have them, but they're controlled with medications. Mm-hmm. And then you have your 0, where you self-medicate.
Yeah.
That's usually where they give you the 0 is when they don't prescribe you any medication, and all you do is ice pack, like they give you the little thing to go over your head, or you self-medicate with Motrin, Tylenol, Excedrin, migraine, whatever over the counter. They'll give you a 0% for that.
It's interesting when you talk about caffeine, right? Because caffeine, is both treating and a causing of migraines. It's like a toxic relationship.
It is a toxic relationship.
Yeah, so that's a question I always ask too: is what's your caffeine consumption? Because if you can have rebound migraines, headaches from too much caffeine.
Too much caffeine. Yes.
Yeah, but at the same time, what's an Excedrin? It's caffeine.
Caffeine.
Yeah, so one of the treating things...
Increasing blood flow.
Yeah, so one of the things you do to treat migraines is caffeine. So it's kind of this interesting balance. So that's always a question you're always going to get asked is what's your caffeine consumption, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't want to be someone who's addicted to Red Bull and caffeine or drinking 2 pots of coffee a day, or it's going to bring up a red flag, and then they're going to say, well, maybe it's just your caffeine consumption.
Right.
Now, so we talked about the rating schedule. Now I want to talk about how do we increase these veterans' chances of getting service connected? What are the, former VSO here, what have you seen work, not work?
Logs are your best friends.
You mean like a headache log journal?
A journal that you write down where you state where it started, how long it lasted, and if it was prostrating.
And what the trigger is.
And what was the trigger. But I will say, download the app.
What app are we talking about here?
Migraine Buddy.
Yeah, that's the most common one. Yeah.
That is the best. Be your best friend for
And I will
migraines.
tell you why, because it is a digital stamp. So when you go in and log it, it gets digitally stamped on the time and date that you had that event. And so it holds more weight when you go to your CMP exam.
Right.
As opposed to bringing in a paper journal, because how do you prove that you didn't just the day before your exam write a year's worth of stuff?
Legalities. You can finagle a paper document. The migraine app documents at that time.
Yeah, timestamps it. Yeah.
It's time stamped. It's there. It shows times and it helps you out. It walks you through everything. The other good thing, another good one is work. So I call off work and you write me a letter saying I called off this day for work. I called off this day for work. I called this day off of work. Showing times off of work is very good. Lay statements from spouses.
So those are witness statements, right?
Witness statements.
Yeah. So how would you utilize that? What do you tell veterans?
We can do family members, your kids, your spouses, friends, about how it affects your daily living. Let's use me as an example. I had a migraine one day, and my son had a t-ball game. I couldn't go to the t-ball game because it was a stressful day. Had a migraine. End of the day, well, that would have been great. My wife could just write a lay statement and be like, he's missing family events.
Yeah. So what you're trying to capture is how does it affect your social and occupational function?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's what they can contribute to. And, when they write that in the letter, that's going to help with when it comes to rating.
Right.
But is there anything they can write in there to help out with establishing causation or aggravation?
You can always write a personal statement and say, and give your story a why.
And I encourage that all the time with my veterans. I say, hey, write how, what's causing it, how it's affecting you. And then, tell your spouse, your loved ones, anyone that knows you real well, when they're writing their witness statement, not just, how disabling they are, but, how are they coming on? Yeah, I've noticed, John Doe, my spouse, he gets migraines when he's super stressed out, he's anxious, when his anxiety is out of control. Or I know that my spouse, he always complains getting migraines, and right before his migraines, he's always complaining that his ears are blasting and they're flaring up, and he knows he's gonna get one. So again, what they're doing is they're creating a whole picture, right?
Right.
So you're putting your personal statement, and then you're having a witness, spouse talk about it, and you're having a physician talk about it. And so you've got, all these different angles looking at the same disability and what's causing it and how disabling it is.
Right.
So it's multiple different lenses looking at the same thing.
And I think another very common one that someone can say is silence. The moment they get into silence is when their tinnitus kicks in. And then that's when their migraines start. It aggravates it and starts a migraine.
When you're about to go to bed and it's quiet, how's that tinnitus sound? Oh, it's always, I can appreciate it more. It's louder. And, are you more likely to wake up with a migraine? Are you more likely to get a migraine at nighttime? And that tends to leave that credibility. Another thing, that we always talk about when it comes to creating good evidence, high level evidence, is that documentation.
Yes.
Right. I've seen a lot. How many times have you seen someone denied because they go apply for it? They just got a diagnosis like a month ago. They've been out of service for 12 years and they get denied. And, they come to me and they say, hey, I don't understand. I got the diagnosis. I had a really good reason why I have them. But the denial says that it's been too far out from the service and there's not been enough chronicity shown that you've had these migraines.
This is where a personal statement comes in and be like, I self-medicated.
You got to make up for that time. You got to justify why you weren't getting treated, why you didn't go to the hospital, whether that's, distrust of the medical,
white coat syndrome.
System. Yeah.
People have white coat syndrome.
Yeah.
Like my wife, she is deathly afraid.
Yeah. And veterans are horrible.
Can you come over to my house
for help
with your coat on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Make her happy. She will lose her mind.
Yeah.
But people have white coat syndrome. They don't want to go to the hospital. Some people are just too tough to go. They just don't want to go. They just refuse to go. I mean, these Vietnam vets, they don't want to go. They refuse to go in to see a doctor. But if you just write a personal statement and just say, I have been using Excedrin migraine or over-the-counter medications for yada yada such years.
Yeah, justify the reason.
Justify the reasons of why you've done this for so long, but it didn't help.
Come back to it every episode. And again, like I said, every episode I'll talk about it again, is, don't trust your provider to write down the stuff you think they're going to write down.
Right.
Take control of your health and your documentation. Utilize your secure message feature in your electronic medical record or the My Healthy Vet account, and write to your provider how bad your headaches are, migraines are, how long you've been having them, when they started, what triggers them, what makes them worse, what aggravates them, how often you're getting them. You're essentially, again, anything you write down and you press submit, it goes into your medical record and it's part of that legal document now. All right. And it's discoverable. And again, two, it forces that provider to respond to it. And, either they're going to say, they're going to recognize, that can cause that, or that's a common cause of migraines. And again, what else it does is it forces them to start a treatment plan for you, and you're starting a paper trail.
Right.
And don't just do it once. Do it a couple times. Follow up monthly, follow up every 6 months. Play the long game. Don't just assume that I got a diagnosis, I'm good to go, let's fire it off, let's do my claim. You want, again, the key here is how do you increase your opportunities and the chances of getting service connected. Yeah.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yes, 100%. Yes. So let's talk about when a veteran needs a Nexus letter or an independent medical opinion, because you have seen claims that have gone through and not gone through. In your opinion, at what point does a veteran need to obtain one?
Those secondaries. It's going to be on those secondaries. Your PTSD, it's kind of going to work. That you might get it. Your traumatic brain injury, those are kind of going to be your gimmies. Because they're going to see that you got it. It's going to be those tinnitus. It's going to be that sinus conditions. It's going to be those, your neck pain, your chronic pain, your neck pain, eye injuries, or astigmatisms or things like that. Those are going to be where you're going to need a Nexus letter.
I always tell veterans, there's a liberal and a conservative way when it comes to Nexus letters, when it comes to migraines. You can be conservative, and you hope you have all the evidence and all your ducks in order and apply. And if you get denied, then come back and we'll do one for you. Or, other veterans that, I ask, do you feel confident that you have enough already? Do you think it's going to pass through? And if not, then let's get one now. And a lot of veterans, I'll be like, we can be very liberal and just go ahead and just try to stack the deck and just have everything in your favor and just apply for one now. But, most commonly, you're going to need one if you've been denied.
Yeah.
It's really hard to overcome a denial without one, because once you get that first denial, you're going to have to show, how can you move the needle to show that it actually is at least as likely as not from either XYZ or military service.
Right.
And that's when you're going to need one, right? Again, we always recommend ask your own primary provider first.
Yes.
It's they know you the best. They can help do that for you. But unfortunately, like we always see, either they don't know how to do it, they're uncomfortable doing it, or they just flat out say no.
Right.
So if you need one, reach out to us. We're more than happy to help out in that process. And we've been very successful with migraines.
Yes.
Yeah. We're doing very well. And so we want to make sure that we're helping whoever we can in this process. So I think wrapping everything up, we've done a really good job here talking about migraines. What are the different causes, triggers, what's a primary, what's a secondary, what's the rating schedule, and what veterans can do to increase their chances. Any closing thoughts you have, Josh, on about migraines that they should know about?
I really want to hit home. Logging with a paper log and Migraine Buddy. Those are going to be the best evidence you can possibly have. It's always like, without that, as a VSO, it didn't really hit home very good. When it was submitted with when I was making a claim, it helped so much.
Well, thank you. And, that's a wrap for today's episode. We're really excited. Next week's episode, we're going to talk about GERD. It's a really big one. And a lot of people don't know that the rating schedule has changed on that. And so I think we'll be able to highlight some of the changes that have happened.
Yes.
Like and subscribe our page. Follow us on, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. And until next time, stay mission ready.